Hello, students. Today I'm going to teach you microeconomics, and this is the first chapter, which is just an introduction to what is microeconomics. But before knowing as to what is microeconomics, let's study first as to what is economy. Now, when we say economy or talking about a particular country, then economy is a system which provides people the means to work and earn a living. Now, every economy has a vital function. And when we talk about the important functions of economy, then we can divide it into production, consumption, and capital formation. Because every economy is involved into production also, that is production of goods and services, and producers or manufacturer does this activity. Then we have consumption. All the goods and services which are manufactured by the producer are consumed by the consumer. So consumption takes place when the consumer consumes the commodities or the goods and services which are manufactured by the producer. The next vital function is capital formation. See, every economy needs to have capital formation because a country cannot grow without capital formation. So these are the important functions of economy. Now let's study as to why do we need to study economics? What is the main reason for the study of economics? So we can just, sum up with one word: scarcity. We know very well that all the goods and services or all the factors of productions which are existing in the economy are in scarcity. So there is a scarcity or shortage of resources in the economy. And that's the reason we need to study that how we can fulfill our needs and wants with this least supply of resources. So scarcity, as we all know, that it means limitations of supply in relation to demand. Like let's say, for example, the demand is more and supply is less, then there is a scarcity of goods. So economics is concerned with selection of resources under the condition of scarcity. Now let's understand what are these resources. It's nothing but factor of production. If I want to produce a commodity, let's say if I want to produce a pencil or a pen, then what are the things, what are the resources I would need? I would need ink, I would need plastic, I would need machine to produce the pen, I would need labor, I would need a place, that is land. So land, labor, capital, that is money. And of course, there is a need of entrepreneur who's going to control all these resources. So when we talk about factors of production, there are many, but the main four factors of production are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur. So in short, we can say that anything which is going to be used for production of goods and services are called factor of production. Now, if you observe this pic, what can you observe from this pic? I'm giving you a few seconds. Now, if you observe the person on the left pic who's standing and who's having problem with the sun, he has all the resources. He has a cap to cover his head. He has goggles to cover his eyes, but still he's not making use of those resources. And on the right hand side, if you see the pic, the gentleman has the ladder, but he's not using that ladder to climb. Instead of that, he's standing on that. So we can, we can understand and observe that in both the cases, they have the resources, but they are not making maximum or optimum utilization of those resources. So it is very important that when there is a scarcity, you should know how to utilize the resources which you have. Now, when we talk about economic problem, of course, there is always a problem of choice. Now, when there are products there are products which are in scarcity, Then there comes a problem of choice. Like, let's say, for example, that I need a commodity and I go to buy that commodity with a particular budget in my mind that I'm going to buy that commodity for 1,000 rupees. But when I go to the shop, I find it many options are available. There are choices, alternative, because with that 1,000 rupees I can buy many things. I can buy X commodity also, I can buy Y commodity also, I can buy Z commodity also. So but there is a scarcity of one thing, and that is money. I cannot buy everything because there is a scarcity of resources, that is money, in this example. Now, out of all these alternatives which are available, I have to choose. There is a problem of choice. I have to choose the best alternative. So, which would be the best alternative? Commodity X, Y, or Z? I'll obviously come to the conclusion on the basis of emergency, that which product is of necessity right now, and I'll spend money on that. So there is always a problem of choice when you want to satisfy your needs and wants. So out of alternative resources which are available, you have to choose the most important or the most urgent need. Now, let's talk about as to what are the reasons for economic problem. The major reason for economic problem is scarcity of resources. Just now I had explained you that everywhere there is a scarcity of resources. Scarcity of resources is not always money, it could be anything else also. So resources are limited in relation to its demand, and economy cannot produce all what people want. Like, let's say, for example, after a few years there might be possibility that coal will become distinct, because slowly the coal mines are, vanishing. So the days are very soon or near where coal might not be there. So there might be scarcity of resources in future for coal. The second reason for economic problem is unlimited human wants. Now we know very well that human wants are never ending. If one want is satisfied, another want crops up. Like, let's say, for example, when there is a child, when he is of age, say 6 months to 1 year, he wants toys. When the same child grows and of, let's say, 3 to 4 years, now he wants a tricycle. Then you want a bicycle. Then you want a two-wheeler, then a car. So the human wants are never ending. If one want is satisfied, another want crops up. So human wants are unlimited in nature. The third reason is alternative uses. When we have certain amount of resources and it has alternative uses, like money has various uses. When any resource has several uses, or it can be put into several uses, then it has alternative uses. Like water can be used for many things. Same way electricity can be used for many things. Same way money can be used for many things. So resources are not only scarce, but they can also be put into various use. And you have to make a choice that you want to use that resource for which purpose. And usually the consumer or the human, it uses make the use of that resource for meeting up the most urgent need or want. So when we talk about economics, from this we can know that economics is a study of social science. We are studying about the society, we are studying as to how we are going to choose out of limited resources which has alternative uses, and how are we going to produce goods and services out of all the resources available, and how are we going to distribute them among the different group of people in the society. Now, talking about micro and macroeconomics, we all know micro means small and macro means big, huge. So when we talk about micro and macroeconomics, here is the distinction. Microeconomics deals with the behavior of individual economic units, which means when I study the individual firm or individual organization or individual unit, then it is a study of microeconomics. But when I study about The economy as a whole, like let's say if I'm doing a study of one particular firm, then it is microeconomics. But when I study about all the firms in that country, then it becomes macroeconomics. So macroeconomics is a study of economy as a whole. Secondly, in microeconomics, if I'm doing a study of demand and supply of particular individual unit or individual firm, then it becomes microeconomics. So study of demand and supply becomes microeconomics. But when I make the study of aggregate demand and aggregate supply, aggregate means total. So aggregate demand and supply falls under the category of macroeconomics. Thirdly, objective. So to determine the price of a commodity or factors of production. The main aim of microeconomics is to determine the price of the commodity, or factors of production. We know what are the factors of production: land, labor, capital, entrepreneur. How am I going to decide the prices for all the factors of production? That is study of microeconomics. But the main objective of macroeconomics is to determine the income and employment level in the economy as a whole. Like let's say, for example, if I make a study as to what is the employment level in India, how much is the literacy ratio, how much is the unemployment ratio in India, then all these study, I'm talking about the economy as a whole. If I study that what is the national income of the country, then that determination of determining the income and employment level falls under the category of macroeconomics. Nextly, uh, when we talk about microeconomics, it is also known as a price theory because we are going to determine the price of commodity and factor of production. So it is known as a price theory. Whereas in case of macroeconomics, it is also known as income and employment theory. Now, when we talk about example of microeconomics, just now I told you that individual income, if I'm going to study or find out about the individual income, let's say person X or firm X, then that is microeconomics. But when I study the national income or national output or total production of a particular economy, then it becomes macroeconomics. When we talk about microeconomics, it involves limited degree of aggregation, and in macroeconomics, it involves highest degree of aggregation. Now let's understand what is positive and normative economics. When we talk about positive economics, it deals with the things as they are, which means it is based upon the real fact. When I say that there is a poverty in India, it is positive economics because we are dealing with the things as they are. It is based upon the real fact. But when we talk about normative economics, it deals with the things as they should be. So it is based upon the individual opinion. Like if I say that there is poverty in India, so that is because it is based on fact. But when I say that in India, these are the suggestions as to how we can remove the poverty or how the country should be to face the problem of poverty, then it becomes normative economics. Nextly, it can be verified with actual data. When we talk about positive economics, it can be verified with actual data, whereas normative economics, you cannot verify with the actual data because mostly, like when I say that there is poverty, that is fact. But if I give the suggestion that these are the 100 measures or 10 measures to remove poverty, then it cannot be completely verified because uh, it might be that there might be possibility that they are true, but then we need to verify those data, which is quite difficult. Positive economics is pure and neutral between ends, whereas normative, it gives you the suggestion. Just now I told you that it is more of a suggestion and optimum in nature. Now, positive economics aims to make a real description of economic activity, whereas normative economics aims to determine the ideals. And when we talk about the value judgments, then positive economics does not give any value judgment. Because when I'm talking about unemployment or poverty, then I'm not giving any judgment. I'm just giving a statement as to how things are. What is the reality? What is the fact? So when I say that there is unemployment or unemployment ratio in India is, let's say, for example, 20% or 30%, then there are no value judgment. But whereas in normative economics, it gives value judgments that there is unemployment because people are not literate. Just for an example. So it gives value judgment, that is normative economics. Now let's talk about the central problems of an economy. Now, when we say central problems of economy, there are three major problems of economy or central problems of an economy. What to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Now, these are the top three central problems of any economy, be it developed country or be it any economy. So every society has to face scarcity of resources. And because of the scarcity, every society has to decide as to how they have to allocate their scarce resources. So these three are the major central problem of an economy. Let's study one by one. The first problem is what to produce. Now, this problem involves selection of goods and services to be produced and quantity to be produced in each selected commodity. That is, every economy has to decide that how much quantity they should be producing, what kind of goods and services they should be producing. So they have to make a decision on selection of goods and services to be produced. And here the guiding principle is allocating the resources in such a manner which gives you maximum satisfaction. Like, let's say, for example, if the economy is socialist economy, then everything is under the control of the government. It is the government who would decide that what kind of goods are needed, whether necessity goods, luxury goods, or comfort goods. So they'll take the decision. But talking about capitalistic economy, then it's a free economy, laissez-faire economy. Every producer is free to choose whatever they want to produce, and every consumer is free to consume whatever they want. So here they have to decide what to produce on the basis of economy. Also, this also has to be taken into consideration. For an economy like India, which is a mixed economy, there is existence of both public sector as well as private sector. So both the kind of commodity are manufactured, that is necessity goods also, and luxury goods also, and comfort goods also. So this problem of what to produce has to be taken care, and it should be in such a manner that it gives you maximum satisfaction. The next problem is how to produce. Now this problem refers to selection of technique to be used for production. How to produce, basically, we are talking about technique. So whether we should be using capital intensive technique or labor intensive technique. Now when we say capital intensive technique, it means more use of capital and less use of labor. So capital intensive requires huge investment into machines and technology, because investment into capital means using advanced technology for production purpose, which is again very costly. And labor intensive technique means more use of labor and less use of technology. Now, how to produce problem can be generally solved depend on the type of economy. If your economy is capitalistic economy, obviously your economy is developed economy, so you can afford to use capital intensive technique. But if it is a socialist economy which is owned, controlled, and managed by the government, whose main aim is to do the welfare of the economy, then they will go in for labor intensive technique, so that there is no problem of unemployment. And for a country like India, which is a mixed economy, we have the combination of both, that is capital as well as labor. But when we talk about India, we cannot have fully completely capital intensive technique, because again there would be problem of huge unemployment. And in India still we are in the stage of development, wherein most of the manufacturers cannot afford very advanced high technology investment cost. So the guiding principle over here is combine factor of production, that is land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur, in such a way that you can have the maximum output at a minimum cost. So this is how you can solve the problem of how to produce. So either use capital or labor intensive technique depending on the economy. Next one is for whom to produce. Now this problem refers to selection of category of people who will ultimately consume the goods. Obviously, I cannot produce a commodity where there is no demand in the economy. Like let's say for example that XYZ country, majority of the people are poor. 80% of the people population is poor. I cannot go and sell BMW cars over there or luxurious car over there or luxurious product over there. So you need to take into the consideration about the selection of category of people who are going to ultimately consume the product. That is whether to produce the goods for poor people or for rich people. That has to be decided. So here the guiding principle is ensure that urgent want of each productive factor are fulfilled to the maximum possible event, which means that I will produce the commodity for whom? For poor or for rich or for both. It depends on the demand in the economy and what kind or what category of people are existing or you are choosing to sell your product. So these are the three central problems of an economy: what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce. Now let's talk about what is opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is a cost of next best alternative foregone. Like let's say for example that if I have option of producing two commodity, let's say if I'm a farmer and I'm involved into agricultural activity, I can produce rice also, I can produce wheat also, but I cannot produce both at the same time because of scarcity of resources. Now I have to make a choice out of both the alternative. I will go in for the option which is most suitable for me and which gives me maximum satisfaction, which means which gives me maximum benefit. If rice is costlier and it is obviously then rice is going to earn me more profit. So what I'm doing is in order to produce rice, I'm letting going the I am I'll have to let go the opportunity to manufacture wheat. So that is my opportunity cost. That is the next best alternative which I have to let go in order to produce commodity X, that is rice. Thank you very much.